Zeppelin is the best kept secret, but because of us, it's really not a secret anymore. Anybody who has not been to Red Zeppelin on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, you're truly missing out. The best environment, the best service, and the best pizza in the state of Louisiana. Go to Red Zeppelin today. Tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to For the Love of Freedom. Today is Wednesday. It's April 8th at 10 a.m. Central, and I'm coming to you live on Voice of the People, USA TV and Radio Network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, wherever you're watching or listening. Please like it, share it, leave us comments. You can always catch us later on the audio-only podcast platforms the same day. And just a fair warning, there is road construction right outside my window. The neighbor is mowing the lawn, so anything could happen. You might hear a lot of background noise, but it's all out of my control. I'm your host, Danielle Walker, and on this show, we meet people who have rejected the status quo, people who've broken with convention, have broken with the belief that the TV or the textbooks tell them the truth, and each of my guests in their own way are working to bring freedom to the world. And my guest today is Praying Medic. He doesn't really need an introduction. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Doing good, Danielle. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. I like it when people say better than I deserve to be. So I think I'm going to start picking that up.
Yeah, I can't complain. It's been an interesting week or two.
Yeah. Understatement.
Yeah, for sure. Lots going on.
A lot is going on. Well, I wanted to finish plugging you real quick. I mean, you don't really need an introduction, but I just want to say that you have been a gift to those of us who have been seeking the truth, and you've offered a lot of guidance and made a lot of sense out of very confusing times. And for those who don't know, Dave is also an author with the gift of making spiritual principles, concepts, and disciplines very approachable and easy to understand and incorporate in your own life. My favorite book that you've written, Dave, is Emotional Healing in 3 Easy Steps. And your latest book is also fantastic, Freedom from Evil Spirits Made Simple. And let me see, I think I have it. I can flash it up here as well. If I didn't delete it when I just cleaned out my... Let me see here. No, I have it. Here we go. Yeah, great book. Great book for spiritual warfare. So,
and the second spiritual warfare book is going to be launching soonish.
Yeah.
I'm working on the final round of edits on that book, and that'll just be Spiritual Warfare Made Simple, where freedom from evil spirits is really about deliverance. Spiritual Warfare Made Simple is about corporate spiritual warfare. Little different tack on that book. I think people will find it helpful.
I think people will find it really helpful because, for instance, there is, I've talked to some people about there's this dark force, dark principality, something really, really dark that is over the Louisiana State Capitol. Inside the Louisiana State Capitol, if you go in there, you can feel the darkness. You can almost see it. It's so palpable. And I've gone and prayed over there before, but I have found that, praying even in a small group of people without like a real strategy has got us basically nothing, So
without a real strategy.
Yeah. I think, at the time we thought we had a strategy, but then you walk out and you're like, this thing didn't move. It didn't budge.
Yep.
It, nothing.
Yeah. And that's what this book, the next book in the series, Spiritual Warfare Made Simple, is going to address exactly that issue. So it's one thing to talk about spirits of pain. You've got neck pain, or you have, some kind of demon that is tormenting you over a variety of issues. That's what Freedom from Evil Spirits is about, that personal deliverance. The next book is going to be one to address things like territorial spirits. Right. And how these larger principalities and powers govern territories, govern sections of society, how evil spirits can manipulate and control the education system, the political system, the healthcare system, where they're exerting influence over an entire sector of the economy or government. Different strategies, different tactics, covens of witches, organized witchcraft, all that stuff. It's a completely different dynamic. And that's what this second book is going to cover.
Okay, I think I'm going to want to get into that a little bit more. But before we do that, I think it's going to tie in really well with some of the things I have percolating in the back of my mind for today. And I mentioned to you before we came on, whenever you're about to come on, I'm always like, gosh, what are we going to talk about? And then I sit down to think about it and I'm like, the list is longer than the time. So we'll see where the conversation goes, wherever it is. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. So buckle up, everybody. I wanted to just mention the scripture that the Lord sent me to this morning. And it's Ephesians chapter 4, verse 23. And I think it's a great frame for today. It says, now it's time to be made new by every revelation that's been given to you. And I had never really just sat there with that particular scripture. I know I've read this chunk of scripture countless times, but I don't know if I've ever just stopped and hung out on that verse. So I was wondering, is there a recent revelation the Lord has given you that has changed you or is in the process of changing you?
Oh, a bunch. A bunch. Yeah, there is. And it involves another book.
I kind of had a feeling it would.
All right. So I don't want to segue completely away from spiritual warfare because that is a timely, relevant issue.
Yeah.
However, there is this new book that I'm working on. I've been working on it over the last 3 days, particularly. And I completely changed the story altogether. When God gave me this revelation that I was writing the wrong story. So I was like, okay, what is the story I'm supposed to write? And the Holy Spirit was like, well, you know what the story is you're supposed to write. You're trying to camouflage it as a science fiction story. That's not a science fiction story. So here's the issue. Since COVID, particularly, but also since 2016, when President Trump was elected, there has been a growing division in society, primarily along the political lines. So prior to 2016, prior to President Trump being elected, generally speaking over the years, Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals kind of agreed to disagree. We had different, political ideologies, but we could sit at the same dinner table and talk to each other. And we could get together over the holidays and have dinner and not be at each other's throats and not block each other and not be cursing each other and not divorcing members of our family and writing them off and saying we're never going to talk to them again. All of that changed in 2016 when this outsider named Donald Trump came in and began to completely flip over the political establishment and challenge everything about it. He challenged the system and the system fought back against him, tried to put him in jail, tried to get him off, so he couldn't get beyond the ballot in 2020 and all of this that they did. And then in 2020, COVID came along and COVID and the vaccination and the 14 days to slow the spread and 6 feet, social distancing and wear your mask. If you're not wearing a mask, you're trying to kill my grandmother, right? They weaponized COVID and the vaccines, and it became a plausible reason for massive mail-in balloting, which allowed Joe Biden to get 20 million more votes than Barack Hussein Obama, who is supposedly the best president ever. And COVID and the election issue and all the other related to vaccines further just that split that was there from Trump from 2016, it just got worse. And more people were red pilled during COVID. A lot of people woke up to the truth, the reality of institutional corruption, the fact that, oh, Big Pharma actually is running a psyop against us. They're paying the NFL to advertise, their vaccines and to wear masks. They're paying the NCAA to support our agenda. There's all this stuff going on. People woke up to that. And because your podcast is about discerning the truth and conveying to the culture what is actually happening, pulling back the curtain. This is what's going on behind the scenes, right? That's kind of your bailiwick. That's your area of specialization. So I wanted to illustrate the problem of how family members have divorced each other in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Over politics, over Big Pharma, over a lot of other things too. And what I did was I started writing this science fiction story where it was a dystopian near future story where the system had developed a patch that they put on your ear, behind your ear, and it would control and filter and optimize your thinking. It would filter out wrong think, and it would help you to comply with the system's agenda. And there was this divide in this story that I was writing between the younger generation and an older generation. The older generation understood exactly what this thing was. And they were like, yeah, no way, we're not doing that. They got pushed out to the fringes of society and actually got ostracized by the compliant ones who gained favor with the system. And they had all the benefits of nice food and clean drinking water and a nice house because they were compliant. The other ones, they were ostracized. They were living in camps and tents out in the middle of nowhere and had to go find water and food. So I thought that was the story I was supposed to write. And the Lord challenged me and he said, no, that's not the story you're supposed to write. The story you're supposed to write is about how this schism, this division has affected you personally, like for real. Like just write that story. Fictionalize it. Write a story about how you being divorced from your family members over this has impacted you. And what is the hope? My hope is I would like to meet members of my family I have never met who were born years ago, and I have not met them, and I'm not allowed to meet them because I'm on the wrong side of the wall. So I'm writing that story. And that's going to be coming out soon. It's a beautiful story. It's a real story.
It's a very vulnerable story.
It's a very vulnerable story because you're going to get inside of my life like you've never gotten inside of my life. It's literally me sitting down writing a book to someone I've never met, who I can't meet because I am a poison, toxic person. And so, like I said, I didn't want to completely segue away from spiritual warfare, but I did want you to know that you asked me, is there some revelation that the Lord gave you that has kind of changed your perspective? Well, like, yeah. He gave me this revelation that I need to tell this story because I know there are millions of people that have been affected by this issue. I get emails from people all the time.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend of mine, Heather, yesterday about this story, because she's writing a story too. And we're talking about the stories. And I said, well, I just got this kind of download, like I need to change the story. And she's like, well, what's the story about? And I told her what I just told you guys over the last 10 minutes. And she had her own story where she has been divorced from her family members. So it affects a lot of people. And I think at some point we need to learn how to take the wall down and get back to how things were 15, 20 years ago, where we can agree to disagree, but you still love people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure what the path is. I mean, I guess the path is really humility. The path is paved by the Lord, right? Like his timing.
Here's what it comes down to. And I don't want to give away the entire plot, but humility is the key. What a lot of us are, what we're focusing on is the other person's sin. We're not looking at what we did to exacerbate the problem.
Yeah.
We all have some degree of culpability in this. And when we work on our side of the issue, it makes it easier for the other person to work on their side of the issue. And eventually, if we start chipping away at the wall that we built, maybe they'll start breaking down the wall they built. And maybe at some point in the future, we can come back together.
Yeah.
But you have to work on your end of the problem.
Yeah, it's true. And I'll be vulnerable here too, Dave. I mean, I feel like one of the things the Lord has challenged me with in the last week, I tend to be a pretty optimistic person, but I feel like the Lord's revealed to me that my unspoken expectations are limiting what I receive. So I'm working on having to renew my mind to expect more, to expect bigger, to expect better. Do you have any advice for me and for people who are in that position of looking for resetting our expectations?
I think I do. Over the last 10 years, since Trump 1.0, I think people have really damaged themselves, damaged their interior life because they've had wrong expectations. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So when Q started posting, one of Q's assertions was patriots are in control. And if you haven't been on the White House's X account in the last week or so, the White House X account posted a meme. It said patriots are in control, right? Literally taking a meme from the Q post and dropping it on X, the White House. So for those of you who say it's a psyop, well, okay, maybe it is, but the White House is in on it. So what the patriots are in control meme that Q posted is a meme. It is an idea that is intended to give people hope. It's intended to take people who are black-pilled and say, hey, look, things are not as bad as you think they are. I mean, they're bad, but we're working toward a resolution. We're working on arresting these deep state people, and it's going to take time. As JD Vance said this morning, don't be black-pilled. Don't check out of the system because things are not going the way you think they are. Hang in there, engage in the process, keep going. If you're not happy with the way things are going, get more involved. Don't get less involved. Don't be black-pilled. So expectations can be overly high and exaggerated, or you can under expect what we should. And you can go, the error goes in both directions. So I know a lot of people over the last 10 years who have expected mass arrests of corrupt people.
Yeah.
And I think that was never a very good expectation to have. From my perspective, that just wasn't going to happen. Even though God has given me dreams about mass arrests. And I had one recently. I had a dream about mass arrests like 6 weeks ago. God gave me this dream where I saw all these corrupt people getting arrested.
I love it.
Like maybe not all at once, but in the dream I saw this long investigation going on. It just went on and on and on. And it seemed like the investigation was never going to end. And then it ended with a whole bunch of people being arrested. Right. So God has given me dreams about those arrests, and they're coming. But you can, if you pin your expectations on the mass arrests, if you pin your expectations on, something that you can't control, something that may or may not happen the way you think it's going to happen, you can get black-pilled because your expectations are too high. And I've been telling people for 10 years, manage your expectations. Do not get your expectations so high. When John Solomon drops a little teaser about, oh, there's a grand jury investigation going on.
Yeah.
Manage your expectations. Don't immediately think that means Brennan and Clapper and Comey and Obama and Susan Rice are all going to be arrested this week. That's not what it means. You have to manage your expectations in that direction. Now, there's the other direction where some of us expect too little to happen. I know people who are on the opposite side. They think there will never be any changes. Nothing's ever going to change. There's never going to be arrests. No one will ever be held accountable. Trump is never going to get rid of the deep state. He just can't do it. He hires all the wrong people. Or in the spiritual, there are a lot of people out there who believe they will never be able to pray for anyone and see them healed. They just believe in their mind, mentally, I don't have the gift. Yeah. I've prayed for people and I don't have the gift and no one's ever going to be healed. Right? That is having your expectations too low. Anyone can operate in miracles. It is an issue of renewing your mind, as that scripture says. Every day you renew your mind to what God is telling you. One of these days, God is going to tell you, hey, get off your ass and get out there and start praying for people at Home Depot.
That's right.
and Kroger and pray for them, and you'll watch them get healed. Stop being a freaking, bump on a log. Get up and do something. So I think having the right expectation it's critical. Everything that we do in life flows from our expectations. What are you expecting God to do? What do you sincerely believe that you are capable of doing? You don't want your expectations to be too high. You don't want them to be too low. You want them to be realistic.
Yeah. And I think my new practice is to wake up in the morning and say, Lord, I'm expecting something really great today. I don't even necessarily have to know what it is, but at least if that's kind of the first thought that I purposefully have, then that's setting things in a better direction.
Yeah, exactly. It is aligning your mind with God's agenda.
Yeah.
Not your agenda, not your expectations, not your routine. What is God telling you today is you can engage with him in his kingdom to advance his purposes. That's what it's about.
I love that. Yeah. Well, switching gears a little bit.
Right. Here we go. We're going to third gear.
Yeah. So the last time, if you can even believe it, I know people can because they've lived it, but the info war has seemed to even intensified in the 6 weeks since it is that we've
freaking psyop after another, isn't it?
Yes. Can you maybe spend a minute talking about the importance of receiving spiritual intelligence about what's going on instead of tuning into the news and that kind of thing, and then maybe also share some spiritual intel that you've gotten lately?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So as Danielle has alluded to, we are in the middle of massive psyops. And here, I'll just give you an example. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and
Candace,
right? So these people that we thought were serious conservative influencers, MAGA, supporting Trump, suddenly, boom, all shifting and attacking MAGA, attacking the agenda, throwing shade on President Trump, and dividing the conservative movement. That's what it's really all about. It's about division. They are what we would call on 8chan division fags. And division fagging has been, it's an old trick. Literally, when Satan was working in the Garden of Eden, he was division fagging. He was trying to divide. He's trying to divide and separate Adam from Eve, separate Adam from God. I'm just going to separate everybody, divide them all up, make sure that they're fighting with each other so that we can't have any peace and unity, right? Satan was the original division fag, and that's happening a lot in our movement right now. So you need to be aware of it. The goal of these people is to divide us. And again, goes back to what I was talking about 15 minutes ago. How when Trump came in as an outsider to the system, the thing that the mainstream media and politicians immediately tried to do was divide.
Yeah.
They tried to divide the country over him. And you know, Obama was affectionately called the divider in chief because he tried to divide the nation among racial lines.
Yep.
He was always pitting blacks against whites, Latinos against whites. He was always trying to create that division line. And this is the oldest trick in the book. And now we're seeing another iteration of it. And again, it comes down to this issue of agreeing to disagree. You have your ideologies, you have your beliefs, I have mine. We don't have to be at each other's throats. We don't have to be fighting. We don't have to get blackpilled because someone says, oh, Trump's with the deep state and he's, got some agenda that isn't America first. That's not America first. This is America first. That whole thing where that's not America first. If it was America first, he'd be doing this. That is a line of division.
Yeah.
It's simply trying to create strife, arguments, fights, and divide us. And we should not let that crap get into our headspace. Now, you talked about spiritual intelligence. There's all kinds of information out there on the internet that we can take in. And I do. I take in a massive amount of information every day. I'm looking on X and Telegram and following what's going on. But here's what I do. I take in a lot of information, a lot of data points. All right. So, for example, Trump last night called an end to basically to the hostilities. He was going to bomb Iran into the Stone Age. His words, not mine. Starting at 8 o'clock Eastern time last night, if there wasn't some kind of a deal worked up. That's a data point.
Yeah.
Okay. That is not the entire narrative. That's not what's really happening. That is a data point. And then this morning and last night, there's still drones and there's still missiles flying and, places in UAE and Qatar and Saudi are being hit by strikes from Iran. And people are like, oh, well, I guess ceasefire isn't really a thing anymore. Well, that happens every time we have a ceasefire. There are still people firing missiles because the Iranian regime has factions in it, just like the American political structure has factions, right? There's Antifa, and there are kind of mainline Democrats, and there are libertarians, and there are conservatives, Republicans. There's all these different factions, and they pull the country in different directions. Iran is the same way. Iran has factions, political factions. Some are more hardline, and some are more dovish toward their militant beliefs. Trump is negotiating with the doves in the Iranian regime right now. But the militant wing is going to continue lobbing missiles and drones because that's their thing. They want war. They're not going to obey or honor the ceasefire if they can get away with it. And Iran doesn't have a clear leadership structure right now. I mean, Mushtaba is supposedly the new supreme leader, but no one's seen him. No one's heard from him. We don't even know if he's alive anymore.
That's the gay Ayatollah.
It's the gay Ayatollah.
What a great meme, by the way.
and then you've got Argachi, who is the foreign minister, and you've got Olibov, who is the parliamentary speaker. Those two guys are on the dovish side of the ledger, and they're the ones negotiating with Trump and Kushner and Steve Witkoff, right? So there's division. Even in Iran, there's division fagging. So but what I was saying is the continued launch of drones and missiles, it's a data point. It's not the whole story. Trump's ceasefire is a data point.
Yeah.
The bombing of various IRGC headquarters, data point. We found out yesterday that CIA has some new super secret technology that allows them to pinpoint the heartbeat using some kind of quantum electromagnetic device that can pinpoint the heartbeat of a person and track it. That's how they've tracked the backseat weapon systems officer of the F-15 that went down. We're like, wait, they did what?
Right.
The discombobulator that Trump talks about, this directed energy weapon that makes people bleed out of their noses and all kinds of noise inside their brain and they can't function. Those are all data points. All right. What I do as I'm looking at what's happening in current events, I just make note of data points as we go along. There's another data point. There's another data point. Data points will give you a trajectory. If you connect the dots, it'll create a trajectory that kind of tells you the general direction in which things are going. And I take those data points, look at a trajectory, and say, okay, this is the general direction where things are moving. Here's an example. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has had, over the last, I would say, year, some very significant rulings, most of which have gone in favor of a conservative agenda. Some, not all of them, but most of them have. So if you just look back at all of the Supreme Court rulings, they're data points, and when you connect the data points, it creates a trajectory. Issues in the Supreme Court's venue are moving in this direction, right? Where we're going to end up on the issue of
Birthright citizenship, maybe.
Birthright citizenship. We don't know. That ruling may not come out until June, but the trajectory suggests it might be a good ruling. It might not. We don't know.
Yeah.
All of these things, the data points, give you a trajectory. The trajectory tells you the general direction in which things are moving. We're moving away from the socialist takeover of America toward a more free, democratic republic. That's the general trajectory. Now, going back to your question about spiritual intelligence, what I do is I take all of this information, and a piece of information does not show you the whole picture. And for the love of God, people, please don't go on social media and the world is over. It's all over.
Right.
Trump is turned against us. He's with the deep state. This one issue proves that Trump is a deep stater. We have no hope anymore. I see people all the time who just get totally wound up on one freaking issue, and like that is the only thing that matters, and that determines the entire outcome of the entire world. One little issue. Like, sorry, that's not how the world works. The world does not turn on your pet project, your issue that is front and center in your mind.
Well, and these issues are continually changing. I mean, Trump's position on Iran changes like 4 times a day. So if you're going to like have a meltdown, just take a few deep breaths.
Yeah, and the COVID vaccines are a really good example.
Yeah.
A whole lot of people pretty much concluded that Trump was a deep stater and there was no hope for anything because Trump was promoting, the vaccines, which I have covered ad nauseum over the last 6 years, and I'm not going to cover it again. Why he did what he did, why it was in the best interest of the country, why he was in a lose-lose situation, and had to make a difficult call. But that is an example of how people focus on one issue and determine that the entire thing is hopeless because one issue didn't go their way. So what I do is I take all of these data points, I give them to God, and I say, all right, Holy Spirit, this is your job. Tell me what I need to focus on. Tell me what is relevant. Tell me what is irrelevant. And tell me what I need to look at, focus on, pray into, what in all of the stuff that's going on. What should I focus on? What should I talk about? And what should be my perspective on this? What is your perspective? And what, because I try as much as possible to get revelation from the Holy Spirit. Yeah. This is God's perspective, and that should be my perspective. And so you might notice sometimes on Supernatural Saturday, next Saturday, by the way, people ask me questions, and I'll often say, well, I don't have any revelation on that because God hasn't spoken to me on that issue.
Yeah.
People will bring up all these, issues. I've had some recently where people asked me this question. To me, it was out of the blue. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that means. They're like, oh yeah, it's just this and that and the other thing. And I've never heard of it. And God has never spoken to me about it. And if God does not speak to me about some issue, I don't usually address it. I don't research it. I don't look into it. I don't address it. Not that it isn't an issue, but it's not something God has given me permission to speak on. And going back to COVID, being a paramedic, working in critical care, I know quite a bit about the body, the anatomy, physiology. I know I transported all kinds of people on antibiotics, and I know the ins and outs of vaccines and all that. But during that time frame, I very rarely, if ever, talked about the vaccines. I just didn't.
Yeah.
And I had some expertise, and I could have easily done the research, and I could have easily become a subject matter expert if I wanted to. But God literally gave me zero revelation on vaccines at that time. And I drew away from that. This is an issue about which he has not given me permission to speak. So when people would ask me, well, what is your take on, ivermectin or this AstraZeneca or, Moderna's vaccine? I'm like, God hasn't spoken to me on that issue. So I don't have an opinion. And it's not that I don't have opinions, but when God gives you revelation on an issue, he is authorizing you to speak on that issue. When God specifically shows you, here's what you need to know about this issue. Here's my perspective on this issue. And if you want to talk to your friends, relatives, neighbors, or your podcast audience about this issue, go ahead. Here's what I'd like you to say. I had a dream years ago where I saw the commander of the Lord's army come down to earth. And he was inspecting his troops. And he was looking at what we were saying to each other and on social media. And he was pretty pissed because there were people talking on all kinds of issues, and they were causing confusion because they were addressing issues they had never been authorized to talk about.
Wow.
All right. That dream, that revelation had a major impact on me. That's when I started to realize, I don't have permission to talk on that issue. And I don't want to piss off the commander of the Lord's army. So I'm just going to not say anything on that.
That's so good.
Yeah, there is a responsibility that we have to very carefully guard our hearts, guard our mouths, and watch what we say, because we can cause confusion when we weigh in on issues that God has not authorized us to talk about and hasn't given us any revelation on that issue.
That's so good. Have you heard of a woman named Lana Vawser out of Australia?
Yeah.
She's a prophet.
Yeah.
I learned from her this just incredible tool. So I'll share it here because it goes along with this. She sits down with the Lord every morning, and this has been my practice since I listened to this. And she says, Lord, what's on your heart this morning? And what are you doing in the world today? And when I do that, I hear from the Lord very specifically about something. Now, what's funny is people are like, well, could you pray about this and get some info on that? Because you seem to hear from the Lord very clearly. And I can pray, and I can sometimes get things that way, but usually the Lord talks about what he wants to talk about, and he's not usually interested in what I want to talk about.
Correct. Right. I mean, you can do that. You can inquire, hey, Lord, I'm interested in this subject. Can you tell me what's going on with this? And you may get nothing. Yeah. Or you may get an entire book full of information.
Exactly. And that's been my experience. So hopefully that helps someone. Don't get discouraged if you're asking the Lord about something and he's not into talking about it today.
That is again, coming back to that scripture about aligning yourself with God's heart.
Yeah.
We have things that we're interested in. We have topics that are of, really fascinating to us, but at the end of the day, it's about what God wants us to be focused on. Like you may have that interest, and God may say, you know what? I'm not going to give you any revelation of that because you don't need to know anything more about it. You know what you know. It's not a thing. We're not going to discuss it. Just move on to the next thing.
That's right.
Let's talk about what I want to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
For sure.
while we're on that subject, how do you parse that out from kind of the persistent widow type of prayer?
Oh gosh. Yeah, that is all right. So the persistent widow, from my perspective, she's talking about the scripture. Well, and it's one of the kingdom parables, actually, right? So Jesus illustrated God's kingdom through parables. And one of the parables is a parable about the persistent widow who went to the judge, and she petitioned the judge for a certain outcome in an issue. And the judge denied her and denied her and denied her again. And she kept coming back. She kept asking and she kept petitioning. And finally, the judge, Jesus said, finally, the judge was just worn down and said, okay, woman, you're wearing me down. I'm going to give you what you want. Right. That's the parable of the persistent widow. Now, I tend to frame that parable in terms of us petitioning God, right? So what is a petition? You have to ask yourself that first. What is a petition? We are submitting a request to heaven to have some issue addressed. All right. Now, that can be anything. Lord, this job that I'm working in right now is sucking my will to live. Can I please get a different job?
Yeah.
Right. And I prayed that for 3 years. After I moved down here to Phoenix, in 2011, gosh, I was working for a really good manager up in Tacoma, a guy named Scott. Loved him. He backed me to the hilt. I never had problems with him. When I got into trouble, and if I was in the right, he would just 100% support me. Down here, when I came to Phoenix, working for the same company under new management, holy crap, management was terrible. And I very quickly came to hate my job. So for, 4 years, 2011 to 2015, I sucked it up and I did my best. And I began writing blog posts, and I was writing Facebook notes on physical healing and eventually emotional healing and deliverance. I was writing all these Facebook notes. 2012, Denise says, hey, you should consider taking all these Facebook notes and putting them into a book. And I was like, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. So we argued about it nicely, politely, back and forth. And I was continuing to work the job that I hated. And I kept asking God, Lord, I hate this job. What's the plan? Get me out of here, man. I don't want to be a paramedic anymore. The shifts were long. The dispatchers were terrible. The management was terrible. Everything about it was terrible. I was barely getting by financially. I went from the top of the pay scale. I was making $33 an hour in Tacoma. I came down to Phoenix and they started me at $14.50 an hour.
Oh my God.
I was making less than half of what I made in Tacoma. It was just, everything about it sucked. The drive was long. The ambulances sucked. Everything sucked. So I was petitioning God to get me out of this job. It's just sucking my will to live. And Denise in 2012 said, we should write a book. And I was like, I don't want to. I don't want to be an author. That's fake and gay. I'm just going to work as a paramedic until I'm old enough to retire, or I go in for back surgery and I can't work anymore. So I had the wrong expectations. Going back to your original question, my expectation was I'm just going to continue working as a medic until I'm too damn old to do it anymore and I'm in a nursing home. That was literally my expectation. I had no plan at all. All right. But I'm asking God, I'm petitioning God, like the widow, Lord, get me out of this thing. I hate this. It's just so I was writing blog posts and I was writing articles, and finally it clicked. I started having dreams about writing books. I was like, dang it, I need to write again. So I took those Facebook notes and some articles and some blog posts and some testimonies, started putting them together with Denise's help and Lydia, my niece, her help, and started edited them down into several books. And from 2013, 2014, 2015, in that 3-year period, we published 6 books. And there was My Craziest Adventures with God, volumes 1 and 2, and then Divine Healing Made Simple, Hearing God's Voice Made Simple, and Seeing in the Spirit Made Simple. And then there was another one. I may have actually published I think in 2014 or 2015, the Emotional Healing in 3 Easy Steps came out. We published those books. And finally, Denise said, hey, you know what? We're making enough off of royalties. You can quit your job as a paramedic. And I was like, Lord, you answered my prayer. Oh my God, stop this job that I hate with a passion. So that parable of the persistent widow, I was petitioning God and asking, look, you got to do something here. You're killing me, Smalls. I need something different. And God knew that he had always destined me to be a writer. I had to figure that out. Yeah. I had to look around and think, what are my talents? What are my skills? What are my abilities? What are my passions? And Denise kept saying, like, all you ever do on your days off is you're on that damn computer writing. You're writing Facebook notes. You're corresponding people. You're sending emails. You're write. You're another testimony, another this. It's like you're writing constantly. How do you not see that you're a writer? And I was like, I was stunned. No one had ever told me that they saw me as a writer. No one ever gave me permission. No one ever suggested I could actually make a living as a writer. It just blew my mind. I was like, what? I don't understand. Like, you really think I could be a writer? The Denise was like, you can absolutely be a writer. And so I've been writing full time for, 11 years. I don't take that parable of the persistent widow in the context of healing per se. It sort of applies, but healing is an issue of power and authority. Jesus gives us power and authority to effect healing and miracles. That is our responsibility. I don't ask God, hey, Lord, would you take away her neck pain? God has given me power and authority. I don't need to ask God for that. I can release the power of God, and I can exercise authority, and I can kick out spirits and command, ligaments and nerves and tendons to be healed. That's my authority, my responsibility. Yes, it comes from God, but it's mine. Yeah. So I'm not asking God for healing. And so the parable of the persistent widow is more in the realm of petition prayer, where you can't actually change your outcome of your situation. Although when I simply decided to start writing books and publishing, I changed my outcome. It was actually my responsibility the whole damn time. God wasn't going to be like, well, I'm just going to wave my magic wand and make you into an author, or wave my magic wand and give you a new job. I needed to take responsibility to steward the gifts and the calling and the destiny he had put in me 64 years ago. It was my responsibility to do that. He gave me the revelation. He gave me the dreams. He gave me favor with certain people in the marketplace. But I had to steward what he wanted to do in my life. And so back to the original question. The persistence is necessary, because there are some things that just take a long time to manifest in the natural. God has given me dreams 15 years ago that have not come to pass yet. I know they're going to come to pass. They haven't come to pass yet. All right. It's a promise. I have a promise. Yeah. We have promises in Scripture. Yeah. And it's our job to pray into those, to sincerely like the persistent widow, keep praying, keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking, and 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 at the same time, work on our responsibilities, work on what we can do to manifest God's plans for us. God isn't just going to wave his magic wand and make your healing ministry appear out of nowhere.
That's right.
You are going to have to go out there and pray for people. Find the sick and injured people who need healing. Go to Home Depot, go to Kroger, go to the drugstore. And when you see people with a cane, with crutches, and a wheelchair, pray for them. Learn how to get them healed. That is the development. That's the seed of your healing ministry coming to manifest. You have to work at it yourself. God isn't going to sovereignly make that thing happen, right? And that's the whole dynamic I'd like people to realize is we have to do our part and God will do his part. We co-labor with God.
Yeah, that's really good. And my story is not too dissimilar from yours. I was working at Pfizer during COVID and hated my job with the fire of 1,000 suns, praying. This job sucks. These people are lunatics, the whole thing. And what am I supposed to do? Give me a way out. Give me a way out. And after 3 years of doing that, he finally gave me a vision of podcasting and said, go out and talk about freedom and help people get freedom. And so that's what I did. That's what
you're doing now.
That's what I'm doing now. And I guess it's 3 years like this month that I've been doing that. So it's been a wild ride, and certainly nothing I ever expected. Just like you, I was very content being behind the scenes, but here we are.
Well, here we are.
Yeah.
We are advancing God's kingdom little
That's
by
right.
little.
That's right. I want to take a little detour, although I think everything we're going to talk about today will somehow be connected in this thread that we have of Revelation. A detour into Q. So in the past, we have talked about Q proofs that have had their moment already. Are there any that you're still waiting on, or have lingering questions about, or have expectations of seeing come to pass?
Yeah. I think the biggest one is, well, this is going to give us a good opportunity to talk about how things change. So some of the things that Q has posted about in the past, I think there are reasons to hang on to those promises, because I think there is evidence right now that the thing we're waiting for is yet future. It's coming, and we just have to be patient and wait for it and pray every single day. If you want those arrests to happen, if you want those indictments to happen, you need to pray every day. Okay, that's your assignment. The assignment for the DOJ and the FBI is to conduct the investigations, the grand jury investigations, which are happening right now in Florida and other locations. So we know that there is a grand jury investigation involving the grand conspiracy against President Trump from his first term in office. And don't worry about the statute of limitations, because in a conspiracy, the statute continues to run as long as people are committing acts in furtherance of the conspiracy. Anything that someone goes on CNN and makes an attempt to cover up the criminal conspiracy from 2016, they just extended the statute of limitations another 5 years. Right. So don't worry about that. There are currently in grand jury investigations, according to John Solomon, in Pennsylvania, I think New York, potentially Virginia, and Florida, where they have grand juries that are investigating all of this stuff related to elections, related to interference in the election, related to all the illegal surveillance of President Trump and all the other related stuff. That's all under investigation. And I anticipate at some point we're going to see indictments of those people. And by the way, that was the major issue that Q focused on more than any other issue. You take all of the Q posts and separate them by subject matter. There were far more Q posts about FISA surveillance of the Trump campaign than any other subject, by far. Nothing is even close to the surveillance of the Trump campaign, the FISA abuse, Clapper, Comey, Brennan, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, Obama, all those people. Q posted more about that stuff than anything else.
Do you think Trump and team knew that they were being surveilled at the time, or at least Trump did?
Admiral Rogers told them they were being surveilled in 2016. Immediately, 8 days after the election, in 2016, the Trump transition team was meeting in Trump Tower to put together their team of people that was going to transition into the presidency. This is 8 days after the election in November 2016. Admiral Rogers had a freaking skiff installed in Trump Tower. So Rogers was head of the NSA at the time, NSA and Cyber Command. He had a skiff installed in Trump Tower. And after it was installed, he went in there and he gave them a classified briefing and informed that they were all being surveilled by the Obama administration. And the next day they moved they moved the transition team to the Trump Bedminster golf course in New Jersey. So yeah, they knew they were being spied on. They knew it all from the beginning. But to your question, are there things in the Q drops that we can expect? Yes, there are. I think the indictment and arrests and prosecution of the Spygate conspirators is coming. That is something that you can hang your hat on. It's coming. It's underway. And, like I said, pray into it. But there are other things that have changed since Q posted. I keep seeing people say, when I post something about John Ratcliffe and how he seems to be reforming the CIA, people are still in this mindset. Well, Q promised us that the CIA was going to be dissolved and the operations are going to be moved over to NSA, and that's the only acceptable outcome. The CIA has to be dissolved. Well, okay, you can believe that if you want. You can believe whatever you want. But the reality is that's not how the world works. You can't take a post from 8 years ago and simply say that because Q said this in 2017 or 2018, that no deviation can ever happen from what Q posted, because Q is omniscient, Q can never be wrong, and Q said this, and therefore it has to happen. Q told us to trust Chris Wray, the FBI director. And about a year later, Q changed his tune, posted that post with Chris Wray and red X through his face. And we found out that Chris Wray was a sleeper. He infiltrated the Trump administration. We thought he could be trusted. And it turns out he was a deep state collaborator. Q was wrong. Q admitted he was wrong. And so things that Q has posted in the past are not necessarily locked in, written in stone. They change. And here's another example. So John Ratcliffe, CIA. Q initially told us CIA was going to be dismantled and that intelligence ops would move over to NSA. That proved to be undoable. They just couldn't pull it off. For whatever reason, at least at this point in time, the CIA is still the CIA. However, it looks like what Ratcliffe has done is he's managed to rip out the political wing of the CIA that has been weaponized against the American people and President Trump. And what the CIA is doing now is they're on the ground in Panama giving intelligence to the Trump administration about what China has been doing with respect to the Panama Canal. They're on the ground in Venezuela as operatives getting intelligence about what the Maduro regime is doing. And they're seeding narratives and they're running psyops and they're providing intelligence to the military so that they can go down there and run their operation, grab Maduro, and switch over the regime to Delcy Rodriguez, who is now working with Marco Rubio to bring Venezuela back into alignment with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
What the CIA is doing now is they're providing actionable intelligence in Iran for Midnight Hammer. and Operation Epic Fury. And the rescue of that backseat pilot never would have happened if the CIA. The CIA literally was providing intelligence and helping run 7 different diversion operations in Iran, pretending where there was a rescue operation over there and a rescue operation over there and another one over there. So Iranian regime did not know where the actual rescue was being attempted.
Wow.
That was a CIA operation. And so if you don't trust the CIA, that's fine. I don't like them any more than you do. But what's happening right now is it appears the CIA is undergoing reform, and they're doing the job they were originally tasked to do 60 years ago, 70 years ago. So when it comes to the Q posts, just realize that things are changing. We're on a continual change. A plan never survives first contact with the enemy. As soon as you make contact with the enemy, you change the plan, because you have to do a battle damage assessment and realize we lost these assets, they lost those assets. We're gonna change the plan, and we're moving forward with a new plan. You have another contact with the enemy. You do a battle damage assessment. Okay, we got some victories here. We made some inroads. Update the plan. Update the plan. Update the plan. What people have not done is they have not updated their operating system to what is happening in the world right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Have you, I know you're definitely watching all that's coming across on Telegram and X. Did you see the video of Trump saying that John Ratcliffe is central casting, and that this location in Iran, if they could have picked one, it would have been the exact place for a scene from a movie about this, where John Ratcliffe was central casting?
I heard Trump tell John Ratcliffe, well, you can tell the people here what happened, but if it's classified, I'll probably have to arrest you. That presser, there was so many good moments that came out of. I guess I missed that part.
I'll send it to you after, I think on Telegram or something. It's funny.
Yeah.
Artemis 2. What is that about? What's going on with that? And do you think that there's something overt about it being named after a pagan god, Artemis?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't. And I've seen people comment on that. Oh, this is some worship of pagan gods. So, no, it's not. NASA picks and names space missions and things for their own reasons. It's completely secular. I don't read into that kind of stuff.
All right.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. As I've told you guys a million freaking times during the Q post, I am not a conspiracy theorist. Sorry. I think Artemis 2 is exactly what it appears to be on the surface. I don't think there's any subterfuge. I don't think there's a subtext. I don't think it's a psyop. I think they're literally what Isaacson, NASA administrator, really brilliant guy. I think what he has done is their original plan was to go and land on the moon. And they ran into some, I would just say, call them logistical problems with the early time window of launching the first Artemis. They realized we're not quite ready to go back to the moon because we have issues. And people are going to say, well, we landed on the moon back in the 60s. Why can't we do it now? Because the Obama administration, among others, intentionally weakened and sabotaged NASA because they wanted to give Russia and China and Iran space dominance so that their little plan to take over the world would manifest. And that was going to be at the cost of us having space dominance. They intentionally sabotaged our space capabilities. Isaacson and NASA are rebuilding stuff that those morons destroyed. So the plan was switched to do a flyby of the moon, and later they're going to build a base on the moon with nuclear reactor that will provide energy and assist in propulsion to get them to Mars. They're going to take the moon dust, which is highly, it has a lot of oxygen in it. The rock, the dust on the moon, a lot of people don't know this, has a lot of helium and a lot of oxygen. They have devised this device that can actually take that moon, dust, dirt, rock, and process it and create oxygen out of it. Oxygen for fuel for rockets, and also oxygen, medical grade oxygen, it can be used for a colonization of the moon. I think we are going to colonize the moon. I, you can have various philosophical views on that. It's happening. It's going to happen. Elon's going to get us to Mars, and they're going to get us to the moon. I would just put out one caveat. I had a dream last year where I saw Elon Musk, and in this dream, I saw all of his aspirations: going to Mars, the electric vehicle thing, the autonomous cars, SpaceX, the satellite, Starlink, all that stuff. And in the dream, all of Elon Musk's aspirations and dreams came crashing down, and he was devastated.
Wow.
It all came to nothing. I have a reason. I have an inkling think about why that might happen. And it has to do with whether or not we're able to maintain access to the internet over the next 20 years. If we lose access to the internet, it sets all of the technological advances back 50 years at least. So I think Artemis is on the surface what it appears to be. I think, if barring any unforeseen circumstances, we're going to the moon, we're going to Mars. And I have in the back of my mind the possibility that we've already been there, and we've already been outside of our solar system, outside of our galaxy, to other places. I wrote a book about it, a novel called Arcturus. And I think Arcturus may be more based in fact than fiction, but that's just my opinion.
Cool. Very cool. Well, while we're on the subject of space, do you want to talk about UFO disclosures and all those people that seem to be going missing or dying?
Oh my gosh, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
What is up with that? Yeah,
I mean,
people, why don't you do the headline and kind of give people the info?
Yeah, so President Trump has been talking or teasing the idea of declassifying UFO info. And I believe
Pete Hegseth with declassifying whatever the DoD has on space programs and aliens, right?
Okay. And then I think Anna Paulina Luna has also done some kind of request or something related to that. And since this has kind of been percolating, people have, there was a guy out west, I don't remember if it was Arizona or New Mexico.
He's a general. He was from New Mexico. He was heavily involved in his past in space program, in the government's unacknowledged special access programs, which is aliens and all that space technology. And that guy went missing.
Yeah.
He's from his house. He just disappeared out of nowhere. Like no one knows what the heck happened to him.
Yeah. Does it make you wonder if Nancy Guthrie knows anything about UFOs and aliens?
No, not really. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, I am a coincidence analyst. And yeah, it is weird that other people who are adjacent to that subject have been either died mysteriously suddenly or they disappeared.
Yeah.
And this question is, are they silencing people who know too much and who might be willing to talk? It's weird.
It's super weird. So
Yeah.
on that subject, have you heard of the story of Dr. Strange's and his book A Stranger in the Pentagon?
No.
This just came across my feed yesterday. It was something that happened in the 50s, or alleged to have happened in the 50s, that there was this intergalactic being named Valiant Thor, who came to Earth as a friendly, like, I don't know if he was an angelic being or something like that. This happened in the 50s. And this guy, Dr. Strange's, who is a believer, wrote this book about it. But he claims to have met this, I don't know, this guy, Valiant Thor, on Christmas Eve, sometime during the 50s. And then he allegedly maintained a friendship with him until his death in 2008. But he has a book called A Stranger in the Pentagon. I don't really know anything about it. That's literally the extent of what I know about it. But it did bring up this other topic, or a memory. I was watching a podcast, I don't know, a couple years ago, and there was a gentleman, I think his name was Dr. Crum, and he talked about a demonic principality coming into the room when he was there in the Pentagon in 1972. And he said that those who were there made a covenant with this demonic entity in order to gain intelligence advances like enhanced remote viewing. And the exchange for that was giving it influence over America. Have you ever heard anything about that or have any insight in that
Nope.
whatsoever?
I haven't heard of either of those. I have no information on it.
I just kind of wonder to what extent our government has been involved with those realms in such overt manner. Those stories are, just like a microcosm, and maybe they're true, maybe they're not, but it does make me wonder how much engagement there has been with the supernatural realm and high levels of government.
Yeah, it's something I have theorized. I'm actually writing the follow-up to the novel Arcturus. Takes place on Earth, and it is sort of, I guess I would say, adjacent to those very subjects you're talking about. If that is a subject that interests you, you might want to check out the second book in the Red Sky trilogy. I'm working on that as well. I'm working on a lot of different book projects. But yeah, I haven't really looked into that, although it's a subject of general interest to me. And I'm exploring it with the Holy Spirit. I haven't really looked into, done any research on it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll send you what I have, and it might be worth you taking a look at it. I mean, I wish I had more to offer on the subject, but I don't. So we'll just switch topics.
Yeah, that's cool.
Shakeups in the Trump administration and the cabinet. I mean, it seems like the news cycle is going so fast that we really haven't camped out on the fact that Kristi Noem gets basically fired or demoted, and then it comes out that her husband has this weird fetish. What is yeah. I mean,
well,
what's your take on that?
Yeah, it has long been known that Kristi Noem has been having an affair with Corey Lewandowski.
Yeah.
So Corey Lewandowski was one of the original hardcore Trump MAGA guys. He was on the first administration. He was on the campaign in Trump's first election campaign. He was a big player in that campaign. And yeah, when I first heard about that, the affair, I was like, okay, whatever. People have affairs. And then this news comes out that her husband is a cross-dresser. Like, really? What in the world? I thought Kristi Noem was doing a pretty good job at DHS. However, she allowed the ICE operation in Minneapolis to become a public media disaster.
Yeah.
The shooting of the two people, all of the contentious back and forth, all the press coverage, the anti-ICE sentiment, the push now by Democrats to defund ICE, all of that is collateral damage because that operation in Minnesota became too public, too violent, and Trump had to make a change because it's an election year and we don't want to lose the midterms. So he had to shut that operation down, and Kristi Noem, unfortunately, was the one who had to go because she managed that situation poorly.
Yeah.
Mark Wayne Mullen comes in, and I'm sure he will have learned some lessons from that disaster, and will probably run things differently from this point forward. Pam Bondi. I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she's a deep stater. I also don't think she was the right person for the job. She's going somewhere else. Hey, Pam, good luck. Hope everything works out for you. Todd Blanche. there's a lot of people that are spreading rumors and about Todd Blanche being a deep stater, that
Yeah.
he's the one who has hamstrung Ed Martin. He works against Ed Martin. He won't let Ed Martin do this and won't do that. I don't know if there's any truth to any of that. One day after the rumor mill cranked out all these stories about how Todd Blanche was sabotaging Ed Martin, Ed Martin posted a picture of him and Todd Blanche standing next to each other at the DOJ smiling. So Ed does not seem to confirm. And Ed has weighed in on X and has said, all the rumors are not true. There is no bad blood between the two of them.
Yeah. And he's had to address that multiple times now, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. So Todd was Trump's personal attorney in several of the most difficult cases that he had to litigate. And I mean, if you sign on as Trump's personal attorney, you stand a very good chance of being disbarred in whatever state you're licensed in, because that's what the system has done. They went through disbarment for John Eastman. They went through disbarment for a lot of other attorneys. Jeff Clark, who worked with Trump, working with Trump as an attorney is a very risky proposition.
Yeah.
And Blanche has faithfully represented Trump in these cases. And I think we have no reason to doubt that he's patriotic, working with Trump, and knows what he's doing. Whether he'll be the attorney general or not, we don't know. There's some people saying it's definitely going to be Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is an attorney. He was actually a JAG attorney, 20 years or so experience in the military. He worked both military intelligence and on the JAG side as an attorney. He has a lot of experience. He could step in as AG. He's done a great job at EPA. He has a good lieutenant at EPA who could take over if Trump does decide to switch, move Lee over to DOJ. We'll have to wait and see what happens on that, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
I don't think Kristi Noem is going in. Tulsi Gabbard. There's a lot of rumors that Tulsi is on the outs. She's headed for the aisles. Not true. This guy named Steve Chung, he's a White House
communications director,
comms guy. Yeah, he has knocked down rumors about Tulsi Gabbard. He said, no, the rumors are false. She's great. She's solid. We trust her. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we're at now. Would there be other changes coming? Let's see. I don't see any changes. I think Trump is pretty happy with the performance of most of the cabinet secretaries and people at the top.
Well, Lee Zeldin would be a very interesting choice if he has a background as a JAG and we're moving into this arrest phase.
Correct. Because because if Trump's people are concerned that they're not going to get convictions in civilian courts because jury nullification is a thing. So what the liberal jurists are doing now is liberal juries are doing what's called jury nullification, where they will hear the evidence in a case, and despite overwhelming evidence of guilt of this person, they will find them not guilty. Igor Danchenko and Michael Sussman are good examples. Sussman went to trial. And Danchenko went to trial. They had overwhelming evidence, and this was prosecuted by John Durham. Overwhelming evidence of guilt. They had a massive amount. The only charge was lying to the FBI. That was the charge. And they had a ton of evidence. And the jury, because they hated Trump, because it's in D.C. and Eastern Virginia, just decided, nope, let him go. This guy was working against Trump, and we hate Trump, so we'll let these guys go, even though they're guilty of sin. So juries, there's a real issue with juries basically not willing to convict anyone who is working against Trump. Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Susan Rice, Sally Yates, all these people.
Yeah.
They're all potentially on the hook. And if they do it in a venue like DC or Eastern Virginia, good chance that the jury isn't going to go for it. Now,
Right.
the grand conspiracy the grand jury for the grand conspiracy is happening in Florida. It's a red state. And that's not, the jury nullification issue probably isn't going to come into play in Florida. The question is whether any of those other cases are going to be prosecuted in Pennsylvania or New York or Virginia, because that's the relevant venue. And will those cases end up with jury nullification? Will the judges interfere? And can some of these people be charged in a military court? James Clapper was a 4-star general. Clapper could be recalled to active duty and he could be court-martialed. Anyone who's former military could end up in a military trial. And that's going way down the rabbit hole of speculation, but that kind of thing could happen if Trump's people feel like these guys are not going to get convicted in a civilian court.
Yeah.
So, keep your options open.
Have you had any insight into how we clear out some of these crazy judges?
No.
Yeah.
It's obvious that Congress is not interested in doing anything. They're not interested in passing the Save America Act. They're not interested in doing anything. They're running out the clock. They're not going to impeach judges. I don't know how we get rid of these corrupt judges. And they're, when the Q operation started in 2017, I don't think anyone had an idea of how corrupt our judiciary system is. It's way worse than anyone believed.
Yeah.
And we found that out now. All these federal judges, just every time Trump tries to make a move, they block him. It's like, wow, this is really bad. And I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, me either. But I bet time will tell.
Yes, time will tell.
The war in Iran, we talked about it. You touched on it several times. Looks like we're in a pretty tenuous ceasefire. Where do you see this going? I didn't know, whenever 8:00 Eastern hit last night, I was like, what is going to happen?
Yeah. So here's my take on that. Trump does not telegraph his military strategic moves in advance. He does not tell you what he's going to do. So go back to Operation Midnight Hammer last summer. No one expected the B-2s to fly east, hit the nuclear sites in Iran, and fly back on a 37-hour mission. No one expected that to happen. It kind of came out of the blue. It was well covered. There was subterfuge and distractions going on. They literally sent a couple of B-2s toward Guam going west as a fake out to keep people diverted from their attention from the B-2s that were headed east toward Iran. So Trump is a master of deception. And when it comes to military campaigns, whatever he tells you he's going to do is not what he's going to do. He isn't going to tell. Whenever the mainstream press in these pressers are like, oh, President Trump, are you going to go in and get the uranium? And Trump's like, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do. Even if I was going to, I wouldn't tell you. Operational security. I'm simply not going to tell you what our plan is. So when Trump says that on 8 p.m. Eastern time, Washington, D.C. time, if there's not a deal, we're going to start bombing all of the infrastructure, the power infrastructure, the oil facilities. That's what's going to happen. That's what I'm going to do. That's my plan. I'm telling you in advance. You should probably look at that and go, yeah, that's not what he's doing. Because he doesn't tell you what he's going to do, right? There's something else coming. He's not going to do that. Now, the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, going all the way back to February 28th. When did it start? It started while Kushner and Witkoff were negotiating with the Iranian regime. They were still in negotiations. They had another 24 hours before Trump was going to make a decision. And a day before that, he just is like, screw that. Send the bombers and start bombing. And people were like, whoa, wait a minute. You still had 24 hours to go in the negotiation. Like, they're still at the table. Like, you just launched all the bombers. Trump uses the element of surprise. So, knowing that Operation Epic Fury started during peace negotiations on February 28th, my guess is the next bombing operation in Iran is going to happen sometime between now and this 2-week window ends. We're not going to get to the 2-week window. First of all, the Ergachi and Olibov, the two guys that are negotiating for Iran, they're not serious about giving up. They're never going to agree to everything Trump wants. Trump wants no uranium enrichment. You lose the uranium you have, we're going to come in there and dig it up. You're going to lose your missile program. You're going to lose, you can't fund Hamas and Hezbollah. Those are the terrorist organizations, and you're going to lose control of the strait. There's no way they're going to agree to that. They might say, oh, yes, Mr. President, we'll do that, of course. But Trump knows they're lying bastards that can't be trusted. So the campaign is going to continue, I think.
All right.
I don't know if he's going to literally go in and take out the power infrastructure and take out the bridges and take out all that stuff. But there's going to be another round of bombings because Trump knows they're not going to agree to his terms. These people don't know how to surrender. They're fighting a holy war. They believe that if they fight this war to the end, they're going to bring in the appearance of the 12th Imam, which will establish a global caliphate for the Islamic regime. That's what their end game is. They have this apocalyptic view of the future. And they believe that if they just wage this war to the end, the 12th Imam will appear. It's a death cult. It's an apocalyptic death cult. And they don't know how to surrender. They just believe that they have to wage this war. So I'm not terribly optimistic about it. I think we're gonna see another bombing campaign. It's gonna come at an undisclosed time. We'll wake up one morning and Dan Kane and Hegseth will be on TV saying, well, let me give you an update on the latest bombing campaign. Like, wait a minute, we're in negotiations. What happened?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's where we're headed.
And this war in Iran is not just about Iran. I mean, it's about NATO. It's about Israel. It's about the future of the peace in the Middle East.
It's mainly about China.
It's about China. What do you think is in store for NATO? Because they're in deep crap.
Yeah. So, as Robert McKee said in his book, I would reach for it, but it's off camera. There were these guys that were filming a movie in Hollywood, and they're reading through the screenplay, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm confused here. What is this story actually about? And the director said, well, it's about exactly what it looks like. It's about these people doing this. And the lead actor said, if this story is about what the story is about, we're all screwed. All right. When you write a fictional story, generally speaking, you're not literally writing a story about some dwarves and elves and hobbits and a wizard who go on this adventure because they're cool people and they just want to go destroy this ring. You're actually writing about the struggle of good versus evil, about the kingdom of darkness and the kingdom of heaven. You're actually telling a story about something other than what the story appears to be about. There's a subtext to the story, right? And your question, what is the Iran war really about? It's not about Iran. It is partly about NATO. Trump has said, and he actually said this up front, that he's testing the NATO alliance. He's testing UK and Italy and France and Germany. Are they actually our allies, or have the alliances weakened to the point where they're not going to back us anymore? Yeah. And he found out very clearly they're not going to back us anymore. What happens with NATO, I don't know. I do know this. There are new alliances forming. They're young, they're not established, but Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, they're all kind of figuring out that Iran never was a good partner, a good ally. And when the chips fell down and they started receiving incoming fire from Iran, they're all like, wait a minute, what the hell? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
They're
Message
blowing up their
received.
gas and oil. The Gulf Coast states are learning Iran was not a good partner, and Israel and US actually are.
Yeah.
They're people that can be relied on to defend them, to help them against this terrorist regime. So there is this shifting of alliances. Trump is building a coalition. It's a different coalition than NATO. He's going to align with countries who are willing to support this battle that he is waging. And it's not primarily a battle against Iran, it's against China. Who is supplying all the sodium perchlorate that is used as fuel for Iran's rockets? Well, that comes in boatloads and truckloads from China. They're producing it. China is producing the technology, a lot of the raw materials for Iran's missile system. It's likely that North Korea or Russia, perhaps China, gave them plans, or Pakistan gave them plans to develop their nuclear weapons program. There are other countries outside that are giving Iran aid, giving them technology, giving them plans, giving them supplies to build up their system. And so those nations that have been helping Iran, China, Russia, Pakistan, North Korea, they form an alliance. They're an axis of power, and they're lined up against the United States and Israel and Jordan and a few other nations who know that they cannot move forward if those guys are in power. If you can imagine, if China became the global hegemon and China began to dictate the rules for everybody in the world. So they started to implement not just surveillance, but compliance scores, where you had to comply with the CCP's rules or you wouldn't be able to go to the store and buy food, because that's what people in China live under. The CCP wants to take that lifestyle and reproduce it at scale around the world. That's their plan. They want to control the entire world. And so China has very wisely been able to undermine governments, Western governments, and weaken alliances in the West. So the UK, for example, the UK has been compromised massively. Their government has been compromised. They have mixed alliances with all of these third world nations just flooding the UK and Spain and France and Germany and Italy. They have all of these people from other countries who've come in and diluted their population, diluted the culture, changed the culture, changed the political structure. The mayor of London and a lot of the MPs in the UK are aligned with Islamic ideology. The Islamization of the West is a real thing, and China is helping to weaponize the Islamization of the West to weaken the alliances of NATO and any other country that would stand against them. So Trump is aware of this, and he's trying to build this new coalition of nations that will stand with us against that axis of Russia and China. And Trump is making overtures to try to get Russia to align with us against, or at least be neutral on China.
Yeah.
He's trying to work. Kushner has connections in North Korea. Kushner was the one who actually got Trump into North Korea across the DMZ to meet with Kim. I have heard that we have an offer to Kim for negotiations to decrease hostilities with no preconditions at all.
Hmm.
So Trump's people are working to try to weaken China's strategic alliance with North Korea and Russia and Pakistan. Why is Pakistan the one that's negotiating peace between the US and Iran? Because Pakistan is a strategic partner with Iran, but they also have a strategic partnership with us.
Yeah.
And so Trump is leveraging all of these countries and connections to try to isolate China and build an alliance that either is neutral to China or is in favor of us. Venezuela, for example. Good example. Why do we have to go down and take out Maduro and put in Delcy Rodriguez, who is willing to work with the State Department? Because China had got a foothold in Venezuela, and they were going to use Venezuela as a launching pad for their hostilities in the Western Hemisphere. And Trump had to take care of that. And what he's going to do with Iran and every other countries, he's going to try to get control of the leadership not in the way that we install puppets who are loyal to Washington, but in Venezuela, for example, with Delcy Rodriguez, that regime right now is going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, rebuild their economy. It'll make life better for all Venezuelans, and they're not necessarily going to be a puppet regime of Washington. They're going to have democratic elections, hopefully, in the future, and it'll be for Venezuela what Venezuela needs to be, not this brutal communist regime that is killing people and imprisoning people. I think that's the goal for Iran. In other nations, we may end up, we may have to do regime change in Canada, for all I know. Canada is pretty. I'm only slightly kidding.
Yeah.
But Canada is another example of a country that has been undermined by the CCP. And Trump is going to have to find a way to deal with that the CCP influence in Canada, in the UK. These people are supposed to be our partners, our strategic partners, and we can't rely on them anymore.
Yeah, we can't.
So Iran is not about Iran. It's about a much bigger global picture.
Are you concerned about sleeper cells here based on whatever actions happen in the conflicts?
Yeah. Less so as time goes on. We were promised by certain people on social media, former CIA assets, promised us that there were 1,000 people, 1,000 cells, whatever, in the United States, known terrorists in the United States, and they were going to start detonating suicide bombs and blowing things up here in the U.S. Like last year, this was supposed to happen. It didn't happen last year. Not that they didn't try. The FBI, to Kash Patel's credit, they stopped and were able to intervene in a lot of terror plots that were being carried out, many of which were operationalized by the CCP, all those bioweapon labs in California and Nevada. FBI is not perfect. They should have caught that second lab in Vegas way before they did, because it was run by the same guy that was running one in California. But FBI has been pretty good at catching the terrorist plots before they're able to operationalize them. Not in every case. They did have that one guy who set an IED outside the gate down in Florida. So I am concerned about sleeper cells. It's something that I pray about. I can't do anything about sleeper cells. I can pray about it, and I can trust that God is going to uncover those sleeper cells and allow the FBI and other agencies to diffuse that stuff before it hurts us. Yeah. I'm also concerned about cyber warfare. I'm following FBI Cyber, and they've been putting out a lot of alerts about the fact that Iran has infiltrated critical infrastructure around the country, water treatment systems, power grids, things of that nature. And they're warning these providers to do their due diligence and make sure that They've got all compliant software that cannot be hacked by the Iranian regime. So there's all kinds of issues out there that could potentially cause problems. And again, we need to be praying about all of that.
We do. Well, that's basically what I had for us today. Now, we do have some points in the chat I might bring out if you have a second. There were
Sure.
some great comments
Yeah.
in the chat.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's see. Warren was really busy in the chat, and he said, hope it equals the expectation of good, and only God is good. Thanks, Warren, for being in the chat. Gigi says, this is so good. Thank you. You've given me so much to think about and pray over in my personal destiny, as well as what is on God's heart in the crazy amount of info we're flooded with. I'm so glad we've given you something to think about, Gigi, and pray into. Yeah, his destiny for you is not, it's not otherworldly, right? It's not something that's going to be that difficult to find, but
no,
yeah, I
it's
pray that
inside of you already. You just have to go and find it.
that's right. You can tap into it. Absolutely. DC Town says, I watched an interview on Sean Ryan. Do you believe there's a base on the moon?
No.
No. Okay. I have no opinion on that, DC Town. And then he also says, or she also says, Stephen Quast is a retired U.S. Air Force Lieutenant General, co-founder and CEO of Space Built, stated China is mining H3 or helium-3 on the far side of the moon. I watched that as well. DC Town.
I saw that.
And I kind of wondered if that's part of what the drive-by was about with Artemis.
Yeah. I don't have any empirical evidence to suggest that there is a base on the moon right now. There could be, but how do you know? It's the freaking dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
Like, how do we know it's there? Maybe the flyby was to do recon to get some photos of what is on the other side of the moon. Quast is a good guy. I like General Quast, but I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll
I don't know either. Yeah. And Touched by Prayer says, hey, Dave.
Hey, Lisa. It was good seeing you. I recently saw her.
Awesome. And then Joanne was in the chat. She said the greatest deceiver of all time is the devil. Amen, Joanne. Absolutely. Yep. And hi, Joanne. Well, that's all I have. Do you have anything else that you're burning to talk about that we didn't cover?
No, I'm good. I think I put it all out there.
Okay, great. That's how I feel. I feel like we really dug into some stuff today, and I really love what you're doing with your new project on the vulnerability project with COVID and digging into that. And I bet you would agree that there is healing in the writing process just itself.
There absolutely is. There is.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, one announcement for tomorrow, Chris and I will be back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central with an analysis of what has happened this week at the Louisiana State Legislature and some insights on what bills will soon be coming up for debate. It's amazing, Dave. I don't know how closely you follow your state politics, but it is astounding to see how corrupt, inept, a vast swath of our elected officials are. So
we have Katie Hobbs.
Well, that's
Chris
true.
Mays and some other corrupt scumbags here in Arizona. And yeah, I follow them. I'm keeping my eyes on them. Hopefully this year we get rid of them.
Yeah, I hope they do.
So,
I hope you do. Well, God bless you, Dave. Thank you again for joining me. And hopefully we'll be seeing you in about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. I'll put it on my calendar.
All right. I'll send you an invite. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Daniel.
God bless.
Pokey Claw right here in Mid-City in Baton Rouge. It's Baton Rouge's newest claw machine arcade. Jenin absolutely loves it. Packed with Pokemon gear and fun for all ages. You got to go to Pokey Claw. I love it. Jenin wants to go there every Saturday. It's just a wonderful place to go for the family, for the kids. Pokey Claw. Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Thanks for joining me today on For the Love of Freedom. It is an honor and a true privilege to get to spend some time with you. If you're looking for other episodes of this show, you can find them on all of the State of Freedom platforms. And a reminder that this show is live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central. God bless.